G'day, it's Professor Joseph Drew here. This video is for people who are thinking about doing a PhD, and particularly people who are thinking about trying to get me to supervise their PhD. The sorts of things you should be thinking about and the sorts of things you should be doing prior to going anywhere near a prospective supervisor. So first of all, are you up for it? It's a huge time commitment. PhDs are supposed to take 3 years. They typically take 4 years. I did mine in 18 months. I got a D.H. Dummerton Award for it and 6A rank publications, but that's unusual. Most people will work their tail off for 4 years. Forget about working 9 to 5s. I've got a PhD student at the moment, probably works 14-hour days every day and has done so for 3.5 years. It's a lot of work. Are you fit to be an academic? I'm putting up a video very shortly about that. Are you physically fit? Do you have the right diet? Do you have the right mindset to be an academic? That's very important. Not everyone's cut out for it. Most people who start a PhD who don't finish it, it's happened because of one of two reasons. First of all, there's been a relationship breakdown with the supervisor. Very, very common. Second of all, they're just not cut out to be an academic. It's a hard gig. There's much easier jobs out there. Huge workloads, lots of criticisms. Academics love to criticize each other, and unless you've got a thick skin, you can take quite harsh criticism, and sometimes it's not even valid. The people don't know what they're talking about, but the criticism gets leveled at you anyway. You're in the wrong game. Don't be like some of these young people who think that they'll come into academia and the world will bow at your feet and recognize you as a superior genius. It's not going to be like that. For the majority of us, mere mortals, you work your tail off, you get lots of harsh comments that you've got to deal with in the publication process, lots of harsh comments from your supervisor. Hopefully your supervisor has your best interests at heart. And at the end of all that, being totally consumed for years and years and years, you might get a PhD and you might even get an academic job, but there's not many of them and it's not a particularly good job. So as I said, can you take criticism? I've had a PhD student in the past, very, very promising, sent off the paper to a good journal, got harshly criticized, unnecessarily harshly criticized, never really wrote a word again, dropped out. A lot of people can't take criticism. It's bad enough and hard enough to take criticism when it's delivered nicely. Some of these reviewers at journals are just harsh. And I wouldn't even mind that. I don't mind harsh criticism when the person knows what they're talking about. But often, particularly with young academics, they want to show everyone they've just swallowed a book and they're a genius, and they want to criticize everyone else when their own work's really not up to the requisite standard anyway, and when they're factually wrong. And the really distressing and annoying thing about the review process in journals is that these reviewers can be out and out wrong, talking rubbish, biased, acting in an unscholarly way, acting in an impolite way, and you've got no comeback. You just got to cop it. And if they've written something, even if it's rubbish, the editor will, if it's harsh enough, the editor will reject you, even when you weren't at fault. And that's really, really hard to take those sorts of rejections. And do you meet the prerequisites? So you've got a undergrad and first class honours, or you've got a master's with at least a minor thesis in with really, really good grades. If you're coming to me and if you don't have a GPA of 6.5 or over, sorry, I'm not interested. It's just too hard, and you're probably going to struggle if you haven't been able to get a GPA in that order. My last PhD student's about to finish with dual PhDs from a Japanese university as well. I think she had a GPA of 6.9, I had a GPA of 7. I think anyone with a GPA less than 6 would really struggle, and the level of commitment that I'm after, the level of capacity I'm after, I think you need to have had a GPA of 6.5 or very good reasons about why you didn't get that to be able to cope at the PhD level. So a lot of people don't understand how the university system works, what the pecking order is. Just because the person's a professor doesn't mean that they're at the top of the pecking order, doesn't mean that they're still a researcher. Typically universities promote according to 4 criteria. One is your teaching evaluations. Now, if you're getting good evaluations from your students for your teaching, that might mean you're a good teacher, it may not too. That's considered a good thing in a promotion contest. The second thing they're looking at is your ability to get external research income, your recognition in the sector. The third thing they're looking at is your ability to shuffle paper, to do admin work, and that's my big weakness. Something that gets me in trouble all the time, but when you're working 12-hour days and your focus is on keeping 3 other universities happy, where you've got adjunct appointments and looking after your suite of PhD students and looking after the students you're teaching, well, admin gets put down to the bottom of those lists. And the final thing is your research output. There's not that many people promoted on the basis of their research output, and there's not that many stellar researchers out there. Now, I've been described by others as a stellar researcher, and I've certainly got a good track record in my field, and I'm a very active researcher. I get good teaching evaluations, even though I'm a harsh marker, but I think people agree that I'm fair, and they certainly say that they learned a lot in my courses. I've got excellent sector recognition, and I've brought in huge quantities, about $250,000 in external research income, more than my wage, every year since I've been at my current university. So I tick all those boxes. I have trouble though with the admin thing, which is hence why I'm actually an associate professor at my current university, but adjunct professor in 2 universities abroad. You need to get yourself an active researcher. If the person you're looking at isn't publishing at least 3 papers in highly ranked journals every year and has a record of doing that for several years, and not just during the sabbatical period, they're not going to be able to get you up to that standard. And that's the standard I want you at by the end of your PhD. So my student that's about to graduate now has published 3 A-ranked journal papers in her 4th year. That's the sort of thing I'm looking at getting you to. If the person's not doing it themselves, if they do 1 B-ranked, C-ranked paper a year, and that's all they've ever really done throughout the whole career, I'd put it to you that they're probably not capable of teaching you how to do what you need to do to be an excellent researcher. And this is the thing, PhD student, your objective is to be an excellent researcher, not a paper shuffler. You have to do a bit of admin work. Not a teacher, you'll probably get no opportunities, but if you do, you should take them. And probably no external engagement. It's all going to be about the research. So when you're selecting a supervisor, you don't want a professor of admin or paper shuffling, you don't want a professor of teaching, you want a professor of research. That's the type of person you're looking for. And what type of PhD? Typically most progressive universities offer both a traditional thesis, just a great big lengthy long-winded document, a couple 100 pages, or PhD by publication. That's what the progressive university is offering. My current university has just got out of that, but that's very unusual. Most progressive universities offer PhD by publication. Now, as far as I'm concerned, PhD by publication is the only way to go. What happens is you leave with a PhD, yes, but you also leave with 5 peer-reviewed papers, almost enough to get yourself a job as an academic. Leaving with a thesis, it won't get you a job as an academic. You've got to show that you can publish before you can get a job, and it's a very hard career market to break into. So if you're doing traditional thesis, I wonder how you think you're going to be an academic at the end of it, unless you're well connected, which I wasn't. So and the other advantage of a PhD by publication is all the reviews, all the revisions, they happen early on, not right at the end. So as you do each paper, you'll get projected, or you'll get accepted, or get asked to do revisions, which is most likely, and you'll have to make changes, and then they get accepted, the thing gets published. That's all I haven't done with it. The final reviewers of your thesis are unlikely to criticise something that's been published in an A-ranked journal. Whereas a traditional thesis, you do all the work for 3 or 4 years, you submit it, and then you find out what people think about it. Now, I'd much rather find out one chapter at a time, each paper is a chapter, than find out all at the end, when it could be an absolute catastrophe and you could get asked to do revisions that basically ask you to do the PhD all over again. There's no nasty surprises at the end of a PhD by publication. Making the approach. It's remarkable how many people that write to me in completely the wrong way and wonder why they get a very polite no thank you. Hi Joseph, I'd love to do a PhD thesis with you. Well, hello. Let's show a little bit of respect. Now, I don't insist on people calling me Professor Drew normally, but if you're a prospective student and you're wanting something from me, the first time you write to me, I don't think it would kill you to write, Dear Professor Drew. And in fact, usually, in the good old days, people would wait until someone said, oh no, just call me Joseph, before they called me by my first name. Now, it wasn't until years after I finished my PhD that I was prepared to call the Professor Dollery, Professor Brian Dollery, Brian. I would still call him Professor Dollery, and if I'm referring to him, I usually refer to him as Professor Dollery. It's just a sign of respect, and he deserves it. And if you can't show respect in your initial contact with this person, I'm struggling to find out how you're going to build that relationship and have the sort of relationship where you're willing to take criticism and guidance from this person. You've got to respect them, or it's just not going to work. I can't be your friend. I'm the person that's going to try to build a great career for you to stop you from doing anything silly you're going to regret later. I'm not your friend. So don't call me Joseph on our first meeting. Know the researcher's interests, what his publications are, his or her publications are, where he's published, what topics he's publishing, particularly what he's writing on recently. Show that you've bothered to read, and you can look the person up on Google Scholar or ResearchGate, type in their name, and it'll come up with their publications and their citations. You can see their famous papers that have lots of citations. You can see the stuff that's been published recently that'll be down towards the bottom with less citations because it's only just come out. You can get a good idea what they have been interested in the past and what they're interested in now. Have a proposal. A proposal, I'm not talking about a full fleshed out 10-page proposal at this stage, just a page telling me about the sort of research you're doing, what context in what country it's based on, what sort of techniques you're going to use, and how you think it fits into the literature and how you think it fits into my expertise. If you can't be bothered doing those things, you're not ready to do a PhD yet. You don't have the tenacity and the interest in investing time that's required of a PhD student. There's pretty basic things to do. And I'd want to see transcripts of your university results, and if you've got any previous publications, that would be viewed favourably. And I've had people before with previous publications and I've rejected them. Some I've shown interest in. Send me your previous publications and it'll give me an idea of your capacity. I don't expect you to be at the level that can publish an A-ranked journal when I first meet you, but I expect you to show me that you've got the skills, the interest, and the work ethic, and most of it is work ethic. It's not natural brilliance I'm after someone that's prepared to work their tail off. If you can show me that you've got those things in abundance, and I feel I can get you at the standard you need to be within 12 months and where you're publishing in A-ranked journals, well then I'm very, very interested. If it's in a topic I'm interested in, if it's in an area which the literature is interested in at the moment, literature, the journals have little trend themes, and some of the things I was publishing on 10 years ago, the journals just aren't interested in anymore. So you've got to be in a publishable area. And then this last thing, timing. Sometimes your timing's just good or it's bad. Maybe I'm thinking about leaving my university, maybe I'm about to get a promotion, maybe I just got dumped with a whole heap of teaching because we've had widespread redundancies and I'm being clobbered by admin work and marking students' work, and you propose a thesis to me and it's just bad timing and I say, no, not at this time. And that's just a bit of bad luck. Maybe you wait again, try again in 6 months or a year's time, or try someone else. So there's a little bit of luck in this too. But if you want to be a successful PhD student, you've got to take the lead from the start. You've got to identify an active researcher. You've got to go and bother to find out what that person's interested in, where they're publishing. Think of a proposal that has something to do with what they're doing, and then politely and respectfully approach them and show them that you've got what it takes to succeed. A lot of people are happy with PhD students that will struggle through and get their PhD, because we sort of get brownie points for it and the university gets money. I'm not happy unless the student has the potential to be a great scholar. I'm just not interested in investing my time in that person. Sorry, I'm not interested in making money for the university or creating brownie points for myself. I'm interested in shaping someone's career and helping them if they want to be helped and if that's the standard they want to get to. So in conclusion, there's a lot to think about if you're thinking about doing a PhD, and there's an awful lot to do before you approach your supervisor, potential supervisor. As I say, if you're not doing those things, don't bother sending me the email in the first place. Some academics will be happy to respond to fishing expeditions, but I would suggest that mostly those types of academics who aren't looking for these things are probably not the kinds of supervisors that are going to be able to help you to succeed as a PhD student in any case. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.